Boy, do we have some satisfying stories in the news today. Boy, if you know how to look for the win, which is what we always do, like read beyond the headlines, what they're telling us, all the stuff they throw at us in the media every single day, and look to see the long-term effects. Read the tea leaves, if you want to call it that. There's some good stuff. First and foremost, I was fascinated by this. So if you followed the, I guess the true crime, people call it the Idaho 4 case, those poor college kids that were murdered basically in their sleep by that Kohberger dirtbag. I've never seen or heard anything like what happened yesterday in court. You know how they have the victims' family statements where they get to, talk about, it's ahead of sentencing where they get to talk about the victims, how special they are. The family members of these victims just absolutely unloaded on this dirtbag in court. And here, I really think this is going to change the way these things go from here on out. I really do. It has already pushed back on it. We don't want the court process to be handled like this. No. Yes, we do. When you hear what these family members said to this absolute loser. It was fantastic. And by the way, on one of these cuts I'm going to play for you, I'm keeping the F-bombs in. I'm keeping the profanity in because I think it's part of the story, and I think it makes the impact that people are looking for. Very satisfying. Biggest story of the news day probably came from DNI Tulsi Gabbard, Director Gabbard, where she basically intimated, no charges yet, we don't know, but she intimated that President Obama is in trouble with a capital T, and that capital T would stand for treason. That's right, the treason word. And amazingly, no, not even amazingly, in true fashion, I'll put it that way, during the press conference, CNN cut it off when they started to mention Obama. If you never knew that he is their God. Whatever, he starts to look like he's in trouble. The full spin is happening already, but it may be too late. I'll tell you why. And another satisfying thing, huge win for college students everywhere, current students and also ones that are heading to college either this year or next year, because a major deal has been struck with Columbia University. And even though this one was about anti-Semitism, it may mean the death of DEI, in admissions, just admitting college kids on the basis of race and gender and preferences and going back to merit where it belongs. All right. I guess I told you, a lot of satisfying stuff in the news today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for finding the Wicked Radio live stream. Appreciate you. More of a normal show today to talk about. And if you're listening or watching later on any of the socials, especially on X, thanks for the follows. I appreciate you as always. All right, let's get to it. I didn't follow this as much as some of the true crime podcast, that's for sure, but certainly aware of it. Happened a couple of years ago with those 4 college kids. It's terrible. They call them the Idaho 4. Were murdered by this dirtbag, Brian Kohberger. I hate even talking about his name, but this is the satisfying part of it. So he pled guilty. So the frustrating thing is they didn't get all the details in. By that, they didn't go to a full, I guess, discovery and trial where they had all the information, whatever it was. But he's going away in jail forever. If he makes it to forever, because there's another interesting angle in this entire thing with they have the victims' statements in court. This took a new turn, and I really do think, because this got so much publicity and went so viral, I think this is going to change the way these kinds of things go in the future. Because the family members of these victims took the opportunity to absolutely destroy him. Usually, in a case like this, the victims' family get up there and they talk about what a lovely person they lost and great loss and what they were really about to try to, win over the judge in sentencing to get the harshest sentence possible. These folks took a different approach. And because it's such a high-profile case, they knew all the cameras would be on them, and they just tore this murdering dirtbag to pieces yesterday. Here's the first one. This is the sister of one of the victims. The victim's Kaylee Gonsalves. This is her sister, Olivia. Listen to this, and then we'll get to the mom in a second. But all the family members got a chance to speak, most of them anyway. I left the F-bomb in this because I think it has an effect, and I actually think it's part of the story. Cover your gentle little ears at the end of this one, but I think it's worth it to hear it because I think these are how these victim statements are going to go from now on.
Let me be very clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered just because someone finally said your name out loud. I see through you. You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most.
Here it comes.
If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your fucking ass.
Yeah, and I kept that in there on purpose because I wanted you to hear that. And she said it directly to him with his blank stare in the courtroom. That was amazing. And, most of social media getting the reaction to this was like, wow, that's what I would have done the same thing. I absolutely would have. But that wasn't without its critics. I happen to notice, because they have big social media accounts, happen to notice a lot of the true crime people, surprisingly, saying, well, that's not right. What you should do here is you should talk about your loved one. There was no mention of Kaylee in her statement. There was no, well, you should, why? Why is that? Why is that such a bad thing? Because let me tell you right now, if I, God forbid, was murdered by some dirtbag like this, you know what I want my family to do in the victim's statement? I would want them to do the exact same thing and take a shot and tear down the ego of this dirtbag that did it. That's what I personally would want. I really would. That's what I would want to happen. Look at that demonic loser straight in the face and tell him exactly what's going to happen. Furthermore, here's what I would want. And here's the part where I'm getting to, where I think this is changing these things forever. So that was the sister of Kaylee Goncalves, one of the victims of the Idaho killer. Let's go to the mom. As if you thought the sister had something to say, listen to the mom for a second now. And she includes a statement from one of the younger sisters who didn't get a chance to speak, so she read a statement from her to represent her. This is even more amazing.
Hell will be waiting. Quick message from our youngest daughter. Aubrey wanted to say, you may have received A's in high school and college.
Here it comes.
But you're going to be getting big D's in prison.
And so after this part, this is where the legal community said, wait a minute, that's not, this is still a courtroom. This is the American justice system. You can't say those kinds of things in court. Yes, you can. Oh, the hell with that nonsense, okay? Enough with being nice. Their family members, her daughter was murdered by this dirtbag, okay? Enough with being nice. There's decorum, You still need to show proper etiquette in the courtroom. Oh, screw you. And I'm telling you, and I'll say it again, if I had gone through anything like this, I would want my family to get up there and say the exact same thing to the guilty party. Because he pled guilty, by the way. No, blast him. Here's the part where this is the thought I had overnight. I think because this got so much media attention, huge. I mean, these individual video clips and audio clips of the family blasting this loser got so much attention. A couple of different things. I think this is going to change these for high-profile cases anyway in the future. I really do. Because for the first time, many people are saying, wow, wait a minute. In these statements before sentencing, you can look at the victim and just, tear them apart. Because we know how it usually goes. It's a heartfelt emotion, how much they're missing their loved one and all this stuff. Wow. Okay, so that's the first thing that's going to change. Here's the second thing and why I think it's important. And this is why I think what they did was a great thing and a brave thing. So what the mom said there about, I guess what she got to was his future behind bars, to put it nicely. Don't you think? I mean, we've all watched enough crime, court, and prison movies. Don't you think somewhere his future fellow inmates where he's going to prison heard and saw that? Don't you think they heard about the sentencing and they were probably like, yeah, you go, Mom. And they know he's coming. They know he's coming to their facility. They know he's their new cellmate. Don't you think maybe because of what they said, he's probably not going to live long? I'll just put it that way. Don't you think? So if he didn't get justice in the court system, really, there was he's going to consecutive life terms or whatever that's like. But the family wants real justice. They want him dead, don't they? Wouldn't that be the real satisfying thing? Don't you think their statements yesterday before the whole world to this dirtbag, don't you think that just increased the odds that he's probably going to make it out of prison? I would think so. This is why I think this will actually change things in the future. May have gotten away with it, really, and saved his life because he didn't get the death penalty officially from the court system, but maybe there's a different kind of justice coming to him. And who would feel bad? Not us. All right, let's get to the swampy news story. It's a biggie. So, employee of the month in the Trump administration, I think, is going to have to go to Tulsi Gabbard. Think about this for a second. 4 years ago, now, the background of Tulsi Gabbard was she was the star as a congresswoman. She was the star of the Democrat Party. She was the hope, the future. I happen to know this from talk radio days, talking to a lot of insiders off the record from the Democrat side of things. She was the one. She was the one they were going to promote to be the future of that party because she had such a great background from the military, her accomplishments, her intelligence, how smart she was, how strong she was, how courageous. And then she left the Democrat Party. That was, boy. So that she became from the golden child to to target number one for the Democrats. Oh, you're not believing me? Okay. She was put on a terror watch list. Now, what? She left because she hated what the Democrats were doing. She hated what that party had become. And she started to see all the dirt that was going on behind the scenes. They literally put her on a terror watch list where every time she flew, after she left her party, she was questioned, pulled aside in the plane, her and her husband. This is why they tried to ruin her life 4 years ago. Flash forward to now. She goes to the other side. She becomes a member of the Trump administration, campaigns for him. Oh, by the way, remember when she ran for president? She just destroyed Kamala in that debate a few years ago? That was incredible. Well, now, flash forward 4 years. She's the director of national intelligence, got to work, and among this atmosphere of everybody, including me and you and everybody else, calling for transparency. Somebody do something. Somebody break up the swamp. Somebody go after the deep state. Can't complain that there's not an effort underway now. She can't do it all, but holy crap almighty. Did Tulsi Gabbard come out with the goods yesterday? This is long, but even I never expected her to come out with the T word for Obama, treason, and connect those two. But she did. I don't know where it's going from now. None of us really do. What's it going to result in? Is this going to result in charges? Is Obama going to be perp walked? Who knows? Listen, I don't know. I have no idea. Are the underlings going to? Is John Brennan, Clapper, are they people like that? Are they James Comey, the former FBI director? They all going to go to jail? I don't know. I don't know. But there's another form of justice in that these golden children of the swamp in D.C., heroes of the left, heroes of CNN, their reputations will never, ever, ever be the same after yesterday, and I mean that. I don't know what's going on from here. None of us do. But check this out. This is long, but stay with me on this, because to connect the names Obama, Clapper, Brennan, all of these deep state monsters who created the Russia collusion hoax, and it has been proven, this is fact now. This isn't left or right or Democrat, Republican, blue or red. This is fact. This was a hoax based on nothing, and they ran with it, and they pushed this fake dossier up the flagpole to try to take down their political opponent. This is what happened. To completely corrupt the intelligence community to take down their political opponent. This is how serious this is. And here she was yesterday.
President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Ed, go ahead.
Director Gabbard, thank you. So just two questions, but to begin on that. The president yesterday, you've inferred that the former president helped lead a coup. Based on what you now see, do you believe President Obama is guilty of treason?
Here we go.
I'm leaving the criminal charges to the Department of Justice. I am not an attorney, but as I've said previously, when you look at the intent behind creating a fake manufactured intelligence document
There it is.
that directly contradicts multiple assessments that were created by the intelligence community, the expressed intent and what followed afterward can only be described as a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy against the American people, our republic, and an attempt to undermine President Trump's administration.
The Senate Intelligence
I
Committee.
don't know. How else can you lay it out than right there? And I forgot she put coup in there as well. Not only the T word, the C word. Treason and coup in Obama. Those words, those three words have never been connected before, ever before yesterday, and it's happened now. This is why listen, let's not pretend, let's be adults. Nobody knows if this is going to result in criminal prosecution at the highest level. Nobody knows. They really don't. I mean, the swamp is real. The deep state is real. That was never a conspiracy theory. But try to tell me and anybody that has an ounce of common sense that their reputations are the same, despite all the efforts to cover up for them. What kind of an effort? I didn't see this in person. I didn't watch CNN during this thing. I'm sure you didn't either. I don't think that I have a lot of followers that are actually CNN fans. Once Obama's name was mentioned, this is all you need to know. This is classic. Once Obama's name was mentioned, CNN cut the feed of Tulsi Gabbard talking about him. Incredible. And it happened in real
nor
time.
capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election. On December 5th.
We've been listening there to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, continuing on what has now been a multi-day effort, not only with public statements like this, but release of documents to attempt to back up the quite extreme allegation that President Obama is guilty of treason.
It's so classic, and we all know it now. And that's the great thing. You know, if you're frustrated by this kind of thing, that's unbelievable. It would cut the feed. No, it's not. And now we all see through it because we know the propaganda. And listen to the wording. The same thing they always do. The persuasion, the reframing that you try to do. Allegations, unbelievable. Attempts, days long. All the classics. All the same stuff. But here's the great thing. Here's the amazing thing. Nobody falls for it anymore. The story of them, CNN made themselves part of the story by cutting the feed. Now look at what the reaction is. And you talk to people at work about this. Can you believe CNN cut away from that? It just made him look 10 times more guilty. It made them look complicit in this because the media that covered these people for years, covered for these people and were part of it, that took this so-called intelligence report and tried to take down Trump after he was already elected the first time. It was the media pushing this thing for their buddies in one particular political party. It's true. I mean, Obama's in trouble. Jail time trouble? I don't know. Doubtful, right? But reputation trouble and the chances of this happening in the future? Oh, there's other ways to pay a price. There's many other ways to pay a price. Now, the takeaway, get ready for this one, because that was just a piece of it. That was like live during the event when CNN cut away from her. Once she started mentioning Obama. We can't have that. Cut the feed. Go to the anchor. That's just the start of it. What's really going to happen is now you're going to have even more attacks on her, more attacks on Trump. They're going to come up with more propaganda because now they're going after their golden child. Now the communication war is on. Get ready for that one. But again, ask yourself what's great about this. Less people buy it. We have the information now with new media. We know what's going on now. At least most people do. Unless you got somebody in your life that's so Trump deranged that they just can't see it. You know, people that still think CNN isn't lying. You know, those people are out there. But the majority of people see right through this right now. They just do. Define what trouble is. I don't know. Define what it is. I define it as a reputation of a former president and all his lackeys. It's bad. It's really bad. And good for this transparency we've all called for, we've all wanted. You're getting it on the important stuff. You're getting it because none of this has ever happened before, ever. It's a momentous thing. Switching gears, and so is this. Big win for college students yesterday. So here's the long and short of it. The feds under Trump administration had cracked down on Columbia University. They decided they could go after Columbia more directly than all of the Ivy Leagues and all the other schools that actually were guilty of intimidation, harassment, threats of not protecting Jewish college students. And even though this is about an anti-Semitism case, really this is a benefit and a massive win for college kids everywhere and people who are about to apply, or going into college in like next month, or applying for college, or high school kids right now. This is great because here's what it all means. With Columbia University in New York, major Ivy League school, with their agreement yesterday, what it means is they're going to drop DEI because they're under their crosshairs. They all are. Going back to merit-based admissions because of a $200 million fine they've agreed to pay. Failure to protect Jewish kids who were blocked from during the pro-Palestinian, which turned into pro-Hamas movements, the protests. They were blocked from going to their classes. They were threatened. They asked the schools, especially Columbia, for help, and they didn't get it. And they were targeted and harassed, and so were Jewish employees of the school. So they got $20 million as well. And the biggest thing of all, admission on merit. They're changing college admissions on this. Even though this is Columbia University, they're all looking at this. They tried to change around with the DEI, the diversity rules for just, heavily weighing based on race, gender, and ideology and all this other crap instead of grades and accomplishments and scores. This is a huge, huge win, because if Columbia caved on this, it's great news for all the other colleges, great news for college kids, but you got to keep the pressure up. So that's another great takeaway. Like I said, many satisfying things. Columbia, DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, putting those words together, but get ready for the attacks. And victim statements in court now after what happened yesterday in Idaho, change forever. It's all good stuff. That's the takeaway. The biggest takeaway of all, really, truly, I'm going back to that Kohberger case again. Don't ever feel bad about standing up for a victim's family, or if God forbid this ever happened to your family. Blast these losers. Don't listen to these idiots on court TV saying, "Well, there should be decorum in the court where you shouldn't use profanity." No, if a family member of mine was murdered by this dirtbag, damn right I'm using profanity, like the mom and the sister did of Kaylee Gonsalves. Of course I would. Good, because it makes his life a whole lot tougher. Love it. Good for them. Don't ever feel bad about that. All right. Thanks for finding me. It's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. We're going to start to prep for the weekend. Thank God it's been a heavy news week, obviously. Make today awesome. And thanks for finding the audio podcast as well. If you're listening right now to that, make sure you press subscribe so you know when new episodes are coming out. Thank you for the follows and all the social media. Do me a favor on the Facebook thing, which is Wicked Wisdom with Bill Adams. Yeah, the live stream is on there as well, but we're going to turn that into a community. So press follow if you could. I appreciate it so much. Make Thursday awesome. Wicked awesome. We'll talk to you tomorrow.